Hello, everyone, and welcome back for another edition of Best Bet. I am your host, Frank Scatoni, and I am streaming live from the private dining room at Ranch 45, right across the track on Via de la Valle. After this live stream, I'll be heading over to the main restaurant, getting a bite to eat, hanging out, talking horses. If anyone's going to the track a little early, please stop by, say hi. It's always a fun time out here at Ranch 45. I have to say this every week in case there are first-time listeners out there. It's not a traditional selection show. We are not going to go over every race. We're just going to look at specific races and wagering strategies that offer the best opportunities to make a decent score. If you're watching live, feel free to leave us a comment or ask us any questions. The show will also be archived on Del Mar's Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube platforms. All right, let's get down to business. Today's guest is the host of the HHH Racing Podcast. He is a terrific handicapper, and he's an excellent tournament player. He joined us last year on the show, and I just love talking to him. So I'm really glad he's back. Please welcome Howard Kravets. Howard, what's good, man?
Frank, it's a pleasure to see you. Thank you very much for the invite. Very excited to talk about Del Mar and the Sunday card. I got my Del Mar Breeders' Cup 24 shirt on, got the hat. I'm all excited. I'll be out there at Del Mar in San Diego, California in early November. Can't wait.
It looks like you can't wait. You're all dressed. Are you packed too? Ready to go?
Not quite. But I might want to start because I'm very excited.
The Breeders' Cup is the best 2 days in racing. I love that that's out here at Del Mar 2 years in a row. I love that all you guys are going to be here. You know, Matt Miller, Brad Anderson, all the Sharpies. It's going to be so much fun. But we're going to talk about Del Mar in a second. I actually want to do something that I don't often do. Let's talk about Saratoga just for a minute, because yesterday was Travers Day, one of the biggest days of the summer. The card was stacked with graded stakes races. Obviously, a bunch of those horses are pointing to the Breeders' Cup. Is there anything we could take away from yesterday's races that might inform us, in the first weekend of November?
There's a lot we can take away. First of all, anyone that's watching the show that's fans of the podcast, I want to thank everyone. We had over 6,000 views, Frank, on all of our on our videos, our preview, our live show. So thanks to all the listeners of the HHH Racing Podcast and viewers.
Nice.
Yes, I think there's a lot to take away. First of all, it was a mixed day for me personally. I will say that I did not win yesterday overall, and we have to be honest, right? I mean, if anyone comes on and say they win every day, they're just not telling the truth.
Right.
Crushed domestic spending in the Jerkins. That was my tip sheet play of the day, actually, and couldn't believe we got 9-2. So I was very happy with that. I could not be more wrong about the Travers, though. I've not been a business fan overall. I love the filly. I just thought it was a really tough spot. She ran her heart out. So I was completely wrong about the Travers. But yeah, it was a great day. We can quickly go through each race and the implication, or I can just mention a few horses, whatever you
mentioned
like.
A couple of horses we should keep our eye out for. What have you heard anything about the Torpedo Anna? What race is she going to go? What's her next start?
Yeah, the plan, Kenny McPeak said last night and this morning, they're going to go to the Cotillion at Parks, a $1 million race on Pennsylvania Derby Day, and then they're going to go to the Distaff. And I think that's absolutely the right decision, Frank. I don't know how you feel.
No, I agree.
The buyer came back 111 for Fierceness, so it was the same for Torpedo. And people were like, "Wow, now she should take on the boys." I don't know. It's a very tough ask. I think she's going to be 4 to 5 in the Distaff. I think that's the right place to go. She's a really special filly. I think domestic spending, it's going to be very domestic product. Sorry, I was confused. Those two. Too many Kravets names.
Or is,
Yeah, domestic spending's a nice horse too. Domestic product, I think, will probably go to the Dirt Mile. That's where I'd like to see him personally. I know the sprint division is pretty wide open, and we'll talk about Raging Torrent yesterday winning the Pat O'Brien, but I think he's more of a miler. I don't think he's a 6 furlong horse. And then Fierceness has to be considered a serious player right on the Breeders' Cup Classic. He's obviously matured. Yeah. I never thought he'd passed good horses ever in his life, frankly, but he did it yesterday and did it well, and he's improving. And I think Del Mar suits Fierceness very well with that tactical speed. It's not easy to close, as you well know. at Del Mar. So I think Fierceness
Yeah.
has to be considered a serious player now for the Classic.
Howard, yesterday I gave Torpedo Anna 0 chance. I gave Fierceness 0 chance. I gave Dornoch 0 chance. I know this is probably a little sore subject for you, but I didn't think Sierra Leone could lose yesterday. That's it. I'm done.
Well, as you know,
done a while ago.
Well, as you know, he's got a soft place in all the hearts of our podcast. So we had a huge Derby future on him. I actually thought he ran as worse yesterday as he's run in his last few. I think he had excuses in the 2 previous races. The pace, for some bizarre reason, did not heat up yesterday.
No,
don't even get me started.
Slow.
I don't know why Dornoch didn't send hard. I have no idea why Dornoch didn't send hard. Anyway, whatever. He still got a good trip. He just didn't have that explosion in the stretch. Maybe it's because of the pace for Sierra, but I'm off him. The divorce papers are being filled out as we speak. I still like the horse. I just can't bet him on the win end until I see something different. The bizarre thing is, I'll tell you what, the Breeders' Cup Classic, if he's like 10-1 and there's a lot of speed signed on, it's tempting not to use him again, but we'll worry about that when the time comes, Frank.
I agree with you. I mean, he didn't get the setup everybody was expecting yesterday. They went so slow. Torpedo Anna from the rail didn't show her customary speed. Dornoch didn't send. The fractions were soft. It was just really weird. But I will tell you this. I was super impressed by the winner and the second place finisher. Torpedo Anna lost nothing in that race. She was incredible. And I underestimated her, and I was impressed. And yet, like you said, Fierceness showed a whole other dimension. He wasn't fearless. He was fierceness. He was behind horses, and he was able to pass horses. And that's something he hasn't been able to do. So, yeah, a lot of good things coming out of yesterday at Saratoga. Big race yesterday at Del Mar. You mentioned the Pat O'Brien, the 7 furlong sprint race, which I believe is a win and you're in for the dirt mile.
Yes.
But I'm not going to redboard here. I'm on record. I picked both Raging Torrent and Happy Jack. One of them to pull off the upset yesterday. But I love the Chosen Braun. He's such a cool horse. He shows up every time. Much respect to that horse. You think anyone coming out of that race can make any noise in the Breeders' Cup, no matter which race they go in?
Well, the pace was somewhat. It was moderate, and they both got perfect trips. Senior Buscador is not going to be obviously in the sprint. He's going to be in the Classic, and that was just a complete prep. I mean, that horse honestly should have been 15-1 in that race.
I know. I couldn't believe he was 4-1.
Well, I mean, look at his resume, right? But just that's very situational, obviously. And so, there weren't a lot of ways to go in that race. The Chosen Braun is a really cool horse, a great horse. The thing that I would, still give him a little bit of a shot in the Breeders' Cup sprint, and probably Raging Torrent also, is this sprint division is just very meh. I mean,
no standouts.
Right? There's no Elite Power anymore. There's no Jackie's Warrior. There's no Gunite. I mean, this is a very weak sprint division in general. And I think the Chosen Run might be better going 6. I don't know your feeling about that, but I think both those horses are probably going to be in the Breeders' Cup sprint, I would assume.
Yeah, I think so too.
I wouldn't rule them out. I just I don't have a strong feeling. A Mulligan won the 4-go, but he got away with murder at Saratoga yesterday. I'm still not sold on him. Maybe a 3, maybe Prince of Monaco can step up his game and be a factor, but Baffert's been just, it's been very bizarre with his horses this year with layoffs and injuries. And
right.
They're not really firing necessarily. So I don't know. The sprint division is a complete cluster. I don't have a good feel for it right now.
Yeah, I like that though, because I even though we have to take what we've seen, I don't like to form any strong preconceived opinions until we see what happens, right? And how the field draws. Just to go back to Sierra Leone for a second, Matt Miller sent this pretty funny comment. I'll let you read it out loud because it's small on my screen.
Matt Miller said, I filed them, meaning the divorce papers, for the whole crew. Got restraining orders against all of you to prevent you getting back together. Yeah, it's been a little bit of a running joke, unfortunately, lately. I still think he's definitely a very good horse. He just
and like you said, if he's the right price and gets the right setup,
nice reverse.
We have to hide from Matt when we go to the window.
Nothing wrong with using a horse underneath and a reverse, tri-key or back wheel. So,
Yeah.
look, he's good. Really quickly, I think Society, who won the Ballerina at Saratoga, is going to be a major factor in the filly and mare
Okay.
sprint. She's got a perfect style for Del Mar as well. And the turf horses, I don't think will be a factor. Frankly, I like Farbridge as a horse, but whatever great Euro comes in, or a few good Euros, should be favorite at Del Mar in November.
All right. Well, let's shift gears and pivot a little bit. We're going to talk about some specific plays today, but I know you've had really good success in the tournament world. Obviously you're ready for the BCBC. How has your year been? Do you have any targets on the horizon other than the BCBC? Anything we should look out for with your plays in the tournaments?
Tournament play has changed my life, and I have to be honest, I've been handicapping for 30 years, Frank. I've only
Yeah.
been playing in tournaments about 3.5. In fact,
Wow.
the first major tournament I played in was the Del Mar 21 BCBC when I met or re-met Matt Miller in
Right.
person and met Brad Anderson. So I'm relatively new to the tournament world. My focus mainly is the BCBC right now. My year has been okay tournament wise. I've had some successes. The Keeneland Grade 1 Gamble was by far my best
Yeah.
weekend. I double qualified in 2 separate tournaments there for the NHC, so I am double qualified for that. And I also got to qualify for the BCBC through a horse players tournament a few weeks after that. So I have one entry to the BCBC, going to try to get a second one. I'm sort of laser focused on that right now. I could chase a second BCBC entry, Frank, but I've decided I'm not going to do that. I'll play in the last chance tournament, which is the Thursday before the Breeders' Cup at Del Mar, or I'll just buy into a second one. Is my plan right now. But overall, it's not been a great year tournament-wise for me, but the Grade 1 Gamble weekend at Keeneland in April was a really good weekend for me.
Hey, one big one makes up for everything else, right?
Yes.
I mean, it's those are not easy tournaments to cash out in. So congratulations to you. Let's talk a little bit about your handicapping approach. You went through this card today and you selected a couple of races to talk about. Walk us through the process of how you look at the card, how you pick and choose your spots, what your handicapping methodology is, etc.
Well, it's something I do often because if I could plug on our HHH Racing Podcast, we have very successful Power Picks tip sheets. We have ones that come out Saturdays only, and then right now we also have exclusive Del Mar and Saratoga tip sheets. And so, because I write many of those, it's exactly what I do, Frank. I handicap the card and look for spot and price plays, which is what I did for you folks today here on Frank's Best Bet. I tend to look at races that are a little bit more higher class in general, not always, but again, 2-year-olds, condition claimers, those are more inconsistent horses, a little bit hard to find form. So I like to look in general at higher class races if that's available. On this card today, Del Mar, not necessarily so much, but that's one thing I do. I try to find horses that are between, let's say, 6-1 and 15-1 morning line. And I don't just look at the morning lines, but I look at horses that I believe are higher prices than they should in the morning line. We've already talked about a few horses that are probably going to take more money than the morning line shows and our overlays by the morning line. But I look for trips as well. I'm very much a visual handicapper, as we've talked about before on the show. I watch a lot of replays. I put in the time. And I think there's a lot of things that are not in the short comments, Frank, in the DRFPPs. They're either incorrect or they're hidden. And I think if you really have the time and you want to do your homework, I would implore everyone out there, don't just look at your PPs, your green sheets, or whether it's Equibase or whatever you look at. You really need to watch replays and see if the short comments match the video.
Yeah, it's one of the few things that we can still do that the computer programs and the algorithms haven't really been able to quantify. Maybe 5 years from now, AI will learn how to watch races and pick up trips. But right now, we do have a little bit of an advantage if we have the time to do the work. And it's hard work. And, to be successful at this game, you really do have to work hard.
Yes.
So let's just get to the races because I thought it was funny because you mentioned how you like to stick to higher class races. So when you tell me race 2, it's an $8,000 claimer contested at 6 furlongs on the main track. And my note here was I thought it was interesting you picked this race because typically low-level claimers are very tough to trust. But then again, at the same time, that means you might be able to find a price.
They are, and if you don't see me looking directly into the camera, I've got the PPs on my same screen I'm using. So Alexis S is a really interesting horse. This is the 4 horse in race 2, 12-1 morning line. A few things that I think people should consider. First of all, Raylu Gutierrez, I don't have to tell you how good a jockey he is. He's having a really good meet out there this year, 14%. He wins at prices too, and he knows how to put horses in position. Alexis S is a very interesting horse. This horse was staked last year, Frank. I mean, he was in some serious turf stakes. He was in a dirt stake. He's got some back numbers, from last year that would absolutely destroy this field. Now, I know what people at home are saying, well, Howard, he's in for 8,000. That's already a big negative. I get that, but he's been in 12.5, so it's not exactly a big drop. There's 2 main angles I like. Number one, he's coming from Gulfstream, and so it's a ship and win situation. So I think he's well meant. He's been on the Tapeta, Frank, and it's just so hard to make up any ground on that Tapeta at Gulfstream going 5 furlongs. He's not really a closer, though, so I think he'll be more mid-pack. He can show tactical speed. Who are we really afraid of in this race? I mean, I guess if you really like Come On Man, the 8 or maybe the 9, yes, he can. And they both can show speed, but I don't think either one of those horses are that reliable. I think there's also other early speed in this race. And if Raylu can work out a good trip, I think we're going to get, 7, 8 to 1 on this horse. And if he can run it all, I think he's got a big shot. Last thing, the workout report, he has 2 works at Del Mar. The first one is obviously a complete maintenance work. And then the second one was a solid B workout according to the DRF clockers. And it was good. So I just see no reason why this horse can't run a big race today. Number 4, Alexis S in race 2.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think the top few morning line choices have to win. I mean, the 9, yes, he can, who is the morning line favorite, just wanted Sacramento. I can't remember the last time a horse from Sacramento came to Del Mar and won a race. I'm not knocking the horse. The horse is has run some really big races, but how good is that form up there, right? It's very questionable. So I think you have to play against that horse. And then, number 8, Come On Man, I think is a little more logical, but, Nap claimed for 16, ran for 10, now running for 8. It's just very suspect. I really like your pick there. And I think you're going to get every bit of 12 to 1 in this field, right? It's a big full field, and there are other places to land for some people.
I think so. I think the key of the race is for Raylu to get Alexis S into the race and not be too far back. If this horse is mid-pack into a moderate or fast pace, I think he's got a big shot. Now, we are going to be able to see the doubles for you early double players.
Right.
You can see the probable will pays from race 1. And I will say also, Frank, that if this horse is like 12 to 1, 14 to 1, and what some people would consider dead on the board, I'd be less interested. It's one of those weird situations, right, Frank, where you want a price, but then again, if he is being bet, that tells you he's more live. So
yes, it's true.
I would almost prefer him to be, 6, 8 to 1 than 12 to 1, even though I know that if I'm right, I get paid less.
Right. But if the horse is taking money, that's usually a good thing. I want to ask you a question about wagering strategy here, because you're suggesting win place. I know a lot of players shy away from the place bet. They either push more on the horse to win or maybe use the exacta as a way to cover a horse in second. What are your thoughts on that?
So I put win place to just make it simpler for the viewers and listeners at home. Okay. I don't play win place very often, to be very honest. Sure. What I personally would do here is this is exactly the kind of horse that I like for reverse tri key or back wheel. So what I will probably do with my own money is put a flat win bet on him of a decent size, depending on how I feel. And then I will key him only in second and third in trifectas and extract value that way, Frank.
That way, yes.
Because I think it is an open race. I'd be using 6, 8, 9, 10 mainly underneath, maybe the 3. So I'd be using 3, 6, 8, 9, 10 underneath in trifectas and back wheel and, play for more than the minimum bet and try to extract value that way. I don't see anything wrong with the place bet, especially for inexperienced players or people that have a lower budget. Look, if this horse is 8 to 1, Frank, and he finishes second, even if a favorite comes in, aren't you getting 6 to place and, getting
Yeah.
at least 2 to 1 on your money, right? So a place bet on a price horse, I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't do it very often. I try to extract value in the exacta pool, like you said. But yeah, for someone who just wants to keep it simple, there's nothing wrong with
Sure.
it. Let's move on to race 3. I'm glad you picked this race. I like this race too. Calbred maiden special weight contested at 5 furlongs on the turf. The rails are at 12 feet. The morning line favorite is number 4, Dancing Forest at 5-2. The horse actually ran okay in his debut, finished second at 12-1. But he made an easy lead on the inside, got overtaken in the lane to finish second. The thing that struck me most about that race, though, was that the winner was 3 lengths clear. You don't really see that in a turf sprint. So
Yeah.
I'm wondering, maybe this horse just ran second by default. There's a horse in here we both like. I loved the horse last time. He was 30-1 on the morning line, which was a bad line. Went off at 8. Probably should have won the race, but I'm going to let you take over from here and tell us how we're getting paid in race 3.
You're not going to be invited to John White's Christmas party by saying it was a bad morning line. But
No.
anyway,
No, it's Jeff Siegel now. Jeff Siegel does it. John White.
Oh, Jeff Siegel. I apologize to John White and
Jeff
Jeff
Siegel's
Siegel.
great.
I know.
It's our job as handicappers to find those discrepancies, right? That's where we find value in the multi-race sequences.
Frank, I had to chuckle myself when I actually gave you a spot play in a turf sprint because, for full disclosure, it's my least favorite kind of race by far, especially 5 furlong turf sprints.
Yes.
Yet I gave you a price play here. I couldn't help myself. The number 6 Desert Rocket, who is 8-1 morning line, I'm guessing will be 9-2 if I had to throw a dollar amount out there. Gets a major jockey switch to Umberto Rispoli, who's riding fantastically, 24%. I like Diego Herrera, but he's not Rispoli, obviously. This horse has gotten off slow in almost every start. And then last time, not only is he off slow, he had trouble in the stretch and then exploded late. It's dicey proposition because horses that are coming mid-pack or a little further back in a 5 furlong turf sprint, often, as I like to say in my show, Frank, no bueno. However, in saying that, I mean, who do you really trust in this race? You mentioned the 4 who, did lose by several lengths, but I have a feeling this Little Ohm that he lost to is actually a pretty nice horse. So, there's his first time out. I think Dancing Forest is going to take a lot of money, show a lot of speed, and it's one of my top choices. I mean, Capital Outlay, the 9, is going to show a lot of speed. Blinkers on for Miller, but is already 0 for 7. I hate that kind of situation. And so there's a lot of horses that are supposedly going to take money that I don't think are very trustworthy here. And I think if somehow Umberto can get Desert Rocket out of the gate and be mid-pack and get a clean trip in the stretch, I think he is very, very live. But some things are going to have to go his way. He's got to break better and he's got to get the right trip. I think this might be the field to do it, though.
I'll say this: if Desert Rocket had won last time, that was during the Del Mar 2-day tournament. I might have been joining you with the BCBC. I would have already cashed. I would have punched my ticket. That's how much I love that horse last time. I agree with you. No offense to Diego Herrera, he's very capable, but Rispoli is riding this turf course better than anyone. If you have a live turf horse, he's your go-to guy. So I'm with you. No way we get 8-1. No. I think 7-2, maybe 9-2. Still a fair price in my opinion. Love that pick there. Let's move on to race 7. $32,000 non-winners of a race in 2024. Strange condition, but we run those here at Del Mar once in a while. Contested 9 furlongs on the turf with the rails at 12 feet. I did this race for the Del Mar website. If you want to read my horse-by-horse analysis, please go to dmtc.com. Go to the handicapping page, and you can find what I said about this race. I thought it was pretty tough. I thought there were a bunch of places you could land. I wasn't particularly fond of, the morning line favorite here. And it looks like, you might not have been either because you have a decent horse at 6-1 on the line that you're interested in.
This is a very tough race. Absolutely a spread. We didn't really get into, you asked me earlier what I like to play. I'm a horizontal player in general. Yeah. I prefer pick 4s, pick 5s, and occasional pick 6 if there's a carryover. This is absolutely a spread race. I'm very interested in number 3, Handy Dandy, 6-1 for Hess and JJ, which I like that quite a bit. Now, we talk often on the East Coast racing where you have to pay the quote IRAD tax because you're going to get a much lower price. It's not quite that with JJ Hernandez,
It's
but
not
again,
as bad, yeah.
but this is a big jockey switch again. Well, actually, he's coming in from the Midwest, so that's not really fair to say. But Handy Dandy, if you recall, was a really nice 3-year-old. I mean, he was in the Hollywood Derby and ran very well against Speaking Scout back in December of 22. Was in the Mathis Mile on what was that? Malibu opening day of Malibu 22. I mean, this horse has got a lot of back class for sure.
And
Obviously,
loves Del
something
Mar, too.
at Del Mar. He's 5 for 8 at Del Mar, first or second. He's coming in from Horseshoe Indy, where he's off the turf. Throw that race out completely. Hess reclaims this horse. I'm a big fan of that. Actually, it's not a claim. Looks like it was more of a private purchase or just a jockey, a trainer switch. But I think they've got him in a realistic spot. If you want to make the argument that he shouldn't be in for this cheap, I can't really defend that. But look, he's a 5-year-old gelding. He's not quite as good as he used to be. He got an 85 buyer 2-back on the Sin at Gulfstream, and I think the synthetic and turf is basically the same. It's a wide open field. He's proven at the distance. He's proven over Del Mar's surface. I mean, there's a lot, JJ. There's a lot of things to like here with Handy Dandy in a wide open field, Frank.
I thought it was very wide open. I think Handy Dandy absolutely has a shot. I remember this horse from back in the day running very well here at Del Mar. Beat me a couple of times. So that's you usually remember the ones that beat you. Yeah. Again, it's a tough race. If that horse is 6-1, I think the horse is really good value. And I like the fact that you said Hernandez rides. Hess isn't going to waste the call on JJ unless he feels like he's got a really good shot to win. So we're just going to go keep it simple. Win place number 3, Handy Dandy in race 7.
Hey, Frank, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Noah Maher, who is an excellent co-host on our Bet and Boozin show, very sharp young man, does like number 4, Sydney Street at 8-1. I just want to throw that horse out there as an homage to Noah Maher. If he happens to watch this show or people that know our podcast, he likes Sydney Street a little bit in that race. So we're all price shopping.
That's very good. And we talked about that before the show. I'd like to have Noah on maybe in the fall because I'm hearing very good things about him. And I like him even more because Sydney Street was one of my A's in the race. So I like Sydney Street. But I had 3 A's in the race. I wanted to go with a very obvious one, number 2, Hurricane Cloud as an A. I think that horse is going to run a good one. And I went with number 4, Sydney Street, 8-1, middle price. And then my Bomberoo probably won't win, but could maybe clunk up for a piece. Number 6, Fly the Sky at 20-1 on the morning line. But to your point, it's a wide open race. So if you like a horse and the horse is good value, go for it.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I was just saying it's wide open. You're not supposed to take the favorite in that race, especially vertically, in my opinion.
I agree. Especially the condition. The horses haven't won in a year, right? So,
yes.
All right, let's move on to race 9. It's the nightcap. It's a 62.5 maiden claimer contested at 1 mile on the turf with the rails at 12 feet. Before I even mention anything about the favorite of this race, I have a very tough time with these kind of high-level maiden claimers. From a class perspective, they're trying to find their level, right? And the trainer's trying to put the horse where the horse belongs, but sometimes they're running them over their head, and then sometimes the maiden special weight droppers are, maybe shouldn't be there because they belong in maiden special weight. I don't know. It's very confusing to me. I like it better when it's a turf race, but do you have any opinion on that when it comes to the maiden claiming ranks?
Interesting you asked. Let me help you with that, Frank. Actually, I have a very strong opinion of that, especially at Del Mar and Saratoga.
Okay.
My feeling at Del Mar and Saratoga in these condition claiming races, turf, dirt, you want to take drop downs. I don't care how bad the form is in main special. These trainers and jockeys in general want to win at Del Mar and Saratoga. And of all the meets throughout the entire year, Frank, I'm less concerned about drop downs from main special to main claiming at Del Mar and Saratoga than any time throughout the year. And so I'm almost always going to default to a drop down in this spot. And there always are drop downs in these races. I don't care if a main claimer, horse has run great and still can't get the job done, and maybe even is better form. I'm going to take a drop down for sure.
Yeah, I agree with you when it comes to the lower levels. I have a little tougher time with the higher levels, but you're absolutely right. I very, very rarely take a horse who ran well at, let's say, maiden 20 and is now running maiden 40 against some special weight droppers. Even if that horse ran a corker of a race last time, the raise in class is significant. And the drop in class from the special weight to the claiming ranks is significant. So I agree with you on that. But again, like I said, these higher level ones are a little tricky to me. But let's get into the race. It's a big full field. Morning line favorite number 8, Quality Wins at 5-2. The horse has failed twice against 50K maiden claimers. He's a 5-year-old, still a maiden. Trainer Mark Glatt is really heated up. He's won a bunch of races the last 2 weeks. But I thought this was a little bit of a hard horse to trust. And it seems like you have someone that you want to talk about to beat this horse.
No, quality wins. No bueno. No.
If Quality Wins, you don't win. No bueno.
Look. He's favored. He's 5. He's 0 for 7.
Yeah.
He's already failed to win at this condition. No, I mean, no. I'll be using that horse as a C, as in cat, in an ABC ticket. That means an extreme backup, if at all. Let's talk about the 11, who I guess should be the 9 horse because it's the 9th race and his name is the old 9. So if he were the 9 horse, I would go to some casino and put roulette wheel on 9.
999.
But anyway, the old 9's interesting. 6-1 morning line. New trainer Baltus, who's having a decent meet. Yep. Again, Rispoli, nothing wrong there. And as we just talked about, this is a drop down, Frank. And he's run okay in main specials. Nothing special, nothing in particular. But it's a little bit of a drop. The workout report has this horse with B workouts. Turf horses working on dirt, I don't look at those works too much, but if they're working pretty well on dirt and they're a turf horse, that does raise my eyebrows a little bit. The 11 hole, obviously not ideal. The rails are out, like 15? The rails are out a little bit today, not bad.
Well, 12 feet, not too
12
bad.
feet. I'm going to trust Rispoli to get this horse in a good position. I'm totally against the morning line favorite. And similar to the Alexis S race, it's wide open. And I need to go with the price. If Rispoli can save ground and get the right trip, new hands for the trainer, why not? It's not my strongest opinion, but again, I think my bigger opinion is I don't want any part of the 8 horse, the favorite in the last race.
Yeah, I'm with you. I really like this horse too. My biggest concern was the 11 hole. You look at this horse's closing times against maiden special weights; they're really good. And if that horse gets the pace and the trip, I think he's going to be very, very tough to beat. I think Baltus does a really good job with his turf horses. So I'm with you. I don't know if we'll get 6-1 just because you have that maiden special weight drop and you have Rispoli, but I think the horse is still good value even at 3-1. So because the opinion here is against the morning line favorite.
Frank, the other thing, I do not have quantitative data as a math teacher. I should have a stat with me to pour out to you, but I'm 99% positive that you want horses that are 3 years old or at least 4 instead of 5. You do not want 5-year-olds who have not broken their maiden yet. And at this time of year, right, we're late summer, these 3-year-olds are pretty much developed. So they're not younger 3-year-olds. I have no problem with a 3-year-old versus a 4-year-old. And Frank, if you own or train a 4-year-old and they haven't broken their maiden by, basically September of their 4-year-old year, that's not very good either. So I like 3-year-olds in this spot also. Next time I come on the show, I'll try to find some quantitative data to prove that.
Well, I'll tell you one thing, I'm with you 100%, but there is one time where I will bet a 5-year-old. And this angle has worked really well for me in the past. If a good trainer starts first time starter as a 5-year-old,
really?
That absolutely. They waited all this time. They think the horse can win a race. And if I'm talking about a good trainer, they think the horse can win a race. So I have cashed many tickets on overlaid 5-year-old first-time starters. Really? Then that's it. Then I won't touch them after that because they fired their shot in that one race. The owners got their win. They waited 5 years to get this horse to the races. They got their win. That's it. So just keep an eye out for that. It's a little bit of a sneaky angle.
Even though I'm the teacher, I'm going to reverse it. Teacher Scatoni, I've got a question, Mr. Scatoni. Why is the horse not run until he's 5 years old? Hasn't he been injured or hurt or in the hospital or something?
Yeah, yes, he's had many setbacks, which is even more the reason. Just retire the horse if you don't think you can run anymore. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
But I'm telling you, it's only with first-time starters at 5-year-olds.
Okay.
Just keep an eye. You don't see it very often, but when you do, just maybe think about it. All right. Well, you know what? We're gonna wrap it up. Before we do, though, tell us where we can find your podcast, your work. Give a shout out to your whole crew. I encourage everybody to hop on board. The work that Howard does is tremendous. And it's not only just handicapping. It's stories about the game. You have trainers as guests. It's just, you do a remarkable job, you and your whole team. So give yourself a plug, man.
Thanks, Frank. I really appreciate it. And it's people like you in the game that we support that just love racing and try to promote the game. So thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. Look forward to seeing you out at Del Mar in about 2 months. The HHH Racing Podcast you can find on YouTube. You can also find on listening platforms, Apple Podcast, Spotify, Anchor, etc. We have 3 different shows: Monday night, Wednesday night, and Thursday nights, all usually at 8 p.m. Eastern. Mondays, our recap show called Horsing Around will be on tomorrow night. And then Wednesday night is a show for the 20-something guys called Betting and Boozing. I got 4 fantastic guys that are in their 20s that are excellent handicappers, including Noah Maher, you mentioned. And they cover big races coming up on the weekend. And then our main flagship show is called Picks and Ponies on Thursday night with 2 fantastic friends and co-hosts, Pete Visco and Paul Halloran. Paul Halloran writes for the Saratoga Special and is working on a book about Cody's Wish. And we have a very strong relationship with the Dorman family, our whole podcast. And that's been very special ride. I will say this week, our Wednesday and Thursday shows are shifting for a great reason, because Noah Maher, who's again part of our Ben and Boozin, is our West Coast specialist, and we want the younger guys to get the biggest weekends of racing. So this big Pacific Classic weekend preview, and it's gonna be monstrous, including a special guest, a young man that you know that I won't mention right now, will make a little appearance on our show Thursday night. He'll be on. So we're gonna be previewing the Pacific Classic day with our Ben and Boozin show Thursday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, although they're usually on Wednesday nights. And us old guys are going to go on Wednesdays. We also have Power Picks tip sheet. The best way to do it, Frank, go to our website, hhhracingpodcast.com. Very simple. hhhracingpodcast.com. We have a big website. You can find all the information there.
When do you sleep, Howard?
Not a lot. I'll tell you what, this is a labor of love, as you well know. I'm a full-time high school math teacher in my 28th year now. So I find time to do both somehow, but it's a real joy. And I just love horse racing. And most importantly, as you can tell, love teaching and explaining. And I think that comes out very well. We don't want to preach. People can do whatever they want with their money. Just give people information and options and let you folks at home decide what you want to do.
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to close out the show. Nice comment from Wayne Miller here. Thanks big time for the show. Appreciate it. Thank you, Wayne, for watching. Thank everybody else for watching. That wraps up this week's edition of Best Bet, live from Ranch 45. Again, I'm going to hop over to the restaurant, get some lunch before I head over. If you're going to stop by, come say hi. I'll be back again next week for Pacific Classic weekend on the Sunday. A little coda to a great weekend of racing. Until then, as I always like to say, good luck to us. Let's make some money. Thanks a lot, Howard.
Crush your bets at Del Mar today.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks.